Got it. Okay.
And I'm monitoring that as well, because I'm watching it on off my phone. So we've gone live on YouTube, and we can start the meeting whenever we're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm going to kind of go down the list here and introduce the board that's participating. I'm Jan Summerall, President, Southeast Lakeview Neighbors. York Chan, who is our board member. He's doing all the technical operations tonight. Tom James, a board member. Liz Cohen, a board member. John Rafkin, a board member. Don Franklin is with us, but we're not going to see his handsome face. And I think I've got all the board members. Did I miss anybody? Okay. And Senator Feigenholz has just joined us, and Alyssa Goodstein from her office is also on. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Senator Feigenholz and Alyssa, and thank you for joining in. Before, just in case if you see me with my head down, please note that I am paying attention. I'm taking notes. So not using my phone, so I'm taking notes if my head is down. Okay.
And excuse me 1 second, Senator, just a little bit of a housekeeping here. For anybody who is watching this on YouTube, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, you may type it into the chat on YouTube. And then additionally, I will be muting anybody that's not speaking at the current moment. So just be aware of that. All right, Senator, the floor is yours.
Terrific. How is everybody?
We're
good
good.
to see you. Last time I saw you, I was at the church. We were all together. I was in the Illinois House of Representatives, and shortly after, John Cullerton did what he usually does. You know, he's the trickster. Made a decision that he was going to retire, and magically ended up in the Senate. So I would never leave East Lakeview or the 12th District. But I did acquire the other half of his Senate district that goes actually all the way to the river. So I have an incredibly large district with more amazing constituents, 18 new public schools just on that side of the district, 18 new public schools. Which I didn't know about before I said, I'll do this, you know. So I was in the Senate for about 13 days, and then COVID hit. And we acclimated very quickly and really have been doing round-the-clock problem. An issue with small business, trying to help people get PPP loans. You know, there's nothing our office hasn't done and is really working around the clock to keep everybody to take care of everybody. That's our job, to make sure you get your needs met and that you're safe. If you need, we've been working with a lot of community organizations. We've been working with Lakeview and Common Pantry. Just a lot, it's really been a great, if I'm looking for a silver lining, just being back in the district and focusing on the community needs. It's really been lovely, sort of an organic return. But we are working really hard with the mayor, with the governor, with the aldermen, and other electeds. We had a flu shot. We did flu shots yesterday. I don't know if y'all get our emails. If not, you should sign up for it. We've done shreds. We've done drug take-backs. And again, we're doing outreach, but we're also here if you have problems. Alyssa's amazing, works constantly, takes her job really seriously. And we're just lucky to have her helping us in the district as my chief of staff. We go back to Springfield normally every November for veto session. This year I am not thoroughly convinced that we are going to have a veto session. The issues that we are poised to address are a lot of the 4 pillars of the Black Caucus's agenda around social justice, healthcare access, which of course those gaps have been extraordinarily amplified during this pandemic, education, and criminal justice reform. And we have a lot of meetings, a lot of Zooms. We are all involved in crafting this so that we can sort of begin to remedy some of what we've experienced in the last 6 months. I am on many work groups, although we have not had actual committee meetings. I'm on a human services work group, an unemployment work group, and another work group that deals with the Clean Energy Jobs Act, and which is something we are all waiting to pass. But there's been a lot of conversations about energy, whether it's solar, wind, it's fascinating, but moving into the next phase of energy in our state. I of course, am painfully aware of the federal government's lack of passage and continuation of stimulus. I saw Congressman Quigley today. They are going back to Washington on November 16th. Hopefully, the Republican Senate won't continue to dig themselves in, and there will actually be some peace in the valley and cooperation so that we can bring home more resources, especially for our small businesses and our entertainment venues and education and healthcare and things that are really important. Our numbers in Illinois and around the country and the world actually are heading in the very wrong direction. Tomorrow we have a 9 a.m. conference call with the mayor. The Chicago delegation has a meeting with the mayor, and I'm not sure what we're going to hear, but I'm preparing myself for, is Tom Tunney really here?
Yes.
We'll hear more from him on what he thinks the mayor is going to tell us. I think the governor is a little gun shy, although I do see him working on moving people into different phases because their numbers are so bad in different regions of the state. I know I don't have to tell anybody in this group that they have got to be careful and wear masks and social distance and really be safe. Please, please, please. And I'm hoping that we do see some help from Congress. We really are we're really going to need it in this state. So stay tuned. I'm sure Congressman Quigley will report back to us. Again, we have a lot of resources in this community. If anybody needs anything, if you have any thoughts about contact tracing, about testing, about anything, please stay in touch with our office. We're here to help you. And it's just great to see all of you. I wish we were in person. How many people here have been to Cuddle Bunny?
I have not gone in, but I've walked by there many times each week. They're going full steam over there.
So the last time, Janet, you remember when
Yes.
the last time I was actually in the church, somebody, the woman from Cuddle Bunny made her presentation. Remember this?
Yes.
I was texting Liz, and oh my God, we were having a blast with that. And Bob Clark was like, "Oh, let's just hop along." And we miss those moments, but it's great to see all of you. Does anyone have any questions for things that are going on in the state of Illinois any questions about what's going on with the budget and the fair tax failing? Anything about what, the outcome of the elections? Oh, well, everybody's perfect. Of course. Yeah. Okay. Well, keep in touch with our office, and I look forward to hearing from the alderman's office. He may have some additional information. I do know that 3 regions in the state were, like I said, they were moved to level 3, right? 2, 5, and 8. And I'm hoping that we can sort of stabilize with your help. Thank you all.
Okay, are you leaving?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Any questions for Senator Feigenholz? Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
I do not. I think the senator did a great job of highlighting what's going on. I just want to say that if anyone needs anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are dealing with a lot of unemployment claims on a daily basis and working through a lot of red tape and helping people navigate the process. I know this is an unprecedented time, so please, even if you're not sure if it's something that the state handles, we're always here to guide you. So just give us a call and I'm happy to walk you through it and also talk about legislative and policy matters as well. So I hope to hear from some of you.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions, then I'll turn the meeting over to Sarah Barnes. They're going to give a presentation about 3124 North Broadway. And those in the neighborhood are probably familiar with the site. That's where Siri's table is. So welcome, Sarah. Nice to see you again. And I'll give you the floor with Josh and Gabe. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Jan. And thank you as well for facilitating our involvement in this meeting this evening on kind of short notice. And to Alderman Tunney and or Bennett, if you are there, thank you as well for helping to coordinate this incredible community feedback and dialogue for this project. York, quickly before I begin and introduce everybody, are we able to show a set of plans that I provided to Jan earlier today?
Do you need us to show it, or do you have the ability? You can also show it from your end too.
Oh, we can show it on our end.
Yeah.
Josh, do you have? Hi, Josh. You have to unmute yourself at the bottom. We might need you to show it, York. I don't think I have them, if you don't mind. When the time becomes appropriate, I'll do it.
I'll have to pull it up.
Okay, great, thanks. So hello everyone. For the record, my name is Sarah Barnes, not whatever I'm signed in as. I am an attorney with the offices of Sam Banks. We are zoning and land planning attorneys here in the city of Chicago. We do work throughout the other suburbs and other unincorporated Cook County, but our principal area focus is generally within the city of Chicago. I'm blessed to get to work with Campbell Street Properties, who is here with us, or 2 of the representatives from which are here with us tonight. We have 2 of the managing members, Joshua Krueger and Gabe Horstick. I'm going to let them give you a little more background on their company and themselves, but they are a real blessing with which to work, especially in the city of Chicago. Their primary focus is, I would say, rehabilitation and repurposing of existing properties. They've dealt with everything from landmarked churches and other historically significant buildings to taking, old courtyard buildings and making them new and fresh again and upgrading them. They always collaborate with the communities and the neighborhoods in which they are operating towards delivering meaningful projects back into the community. So I'm really, again, excited to introduce you to them here tonight. So with that, Campbell Street recently purchased or acquired the subject property at 3124 North Broadway. As Jan so eloquently identified, and many of you are familiar, it is the 3-story mixed-use building that currently houses Siri's restaurant on the grade level. And I was just driving through the neighborhood the other day, since I was a former resident, and I saw that Siri's was still operating. So that made me happy, especially in light of the incredible circumstances that have afflicted us all. But the intent is, so the existing building above and beyond Siri's restaurant on the first floor has 4 dwelling units located on and between the second and third floors. The intent with the reprogramming of the site would be to renovate and upgrade the existing commercial retail space or restaurant space, and either get Siri's back in there if they're able to continue, or to market that to a tenant. There's going to be, and again, I'll let Gabe and Josh walk through this, but an entire renovation to the front, facadectomy, some of us refer to it as, but they will be doing redoing the facade of the building as well. And again, renovating and upgrading those existing 4 units that are in the front of the building. The proposal also uniquely calls for a proposed 4-story rear addition. It's a little bit of a unique design, so I'll wait for York to pull that up and then have the gentleman walk you through it. But the rear addition would then allow for the establishment of 5 new dwelling units between the first floor and 4th floors. And again, I'll let Josh and Gabe walk you through that configuration. And then we would be maintaining some parking still on site, although we do qualify as a transit served location. So we would also be asking for some parking benefits in order to just reduce congestion in and along Broadway and in the neighborhood. So York just kind of pulled up a narrative of the proposal, and there are some plans in here too, which we'll get to in a second. In order to effectuate the permitting of the renovation and rehabilitation and reuse of the existing property and improvements, we would require a zoning map amendment. The property is currently zoned B32, which is a mixed use category. It does support the existing improvements, but in order to support the additional 5 dwelling units at the rear of the property, we would have to change that slightly just to a B23, which is more consistent with, again, the quality of the improvements that we are proposing. In addition to the zoning map amendment for the rear addition, we would require a subsequent administrative relief, and that is for the rear setback in the B and C districts within the city of Chicago. The city generally requires a 30-foot rear setback for residential uses on a B or C lot. So with the parking, I think we're a little less than that 30 feet. So we would be seeking an administrative adjustment and or variation subsequent to these proposed zoning map amendment in order to fully permit the project. As I indicated, because this is a transit served location due to its proximity to various forms of public transportation, we would also be seeking, with the zoning map amendment, as part of the zoning map amendment, a reduction in the required amount of on-site parking. Since we're adding 5 units to the proposed buildings, we would necessarily require a total of 5 parking spaces. We only have 3, so we would be seeking to reduce that by 2. So with no further ado, unless anybody has general questions about the boring zoning, I will introduce or turn over the microphone to Joshua and Gabe and let them walk you through the programming.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank everyone for the opportunity to present the project. She did a pretty good job of summing everything up. Really quick, I'd just like to give a quick background of our company. Gabe and I started our business in 2012 as apartment rehab and builders. We've done about 40 projects around the city over the last 8 years. We've been pretty active. One thing to note, our company, is that we tend to buy, execute our business plan and hold long term. We really, out of 40 projects, have sold, I think, 4 or 5 buildings. So we love the communities we're in, and we're real kind of long term focused and long term hold. This property in this location is an area where we have other assets. We recently acquired at 448 West Berry the Serbian Museum, which is an old historic landmark mansion that we plan to preserve and restore and repurpose to apartments on the inside. We're excited about that project. It's just a few blocks away. What was interesting about this building is overall the building is very clean. There's a long-term lease with Series Table, and they've definitely had their struggles like other small businesses in the community, and there's no plans for them to close at this time. We've been working together to keep them in place. We voluntarily decided to upgrade the storefront. It looked a little tired, so I think next week that'll be replaced with a new real state-of-the-art retractable storefront for them, which they can open up in nicer weather. And then we updated we had to replace the lintels recently, replace the front windows with black windows. And then the 4 units existing on the upper floors were pretty clean already. It was really more of a cosmetic update. What was interesting about the site is that it's a deep site where the backs seem very underutilized. So we went back and forth with our architect with a few different versions of what we could do back there. And we ultimately ended up with the current plan, which, as Sarah explained, is to add 5 additional units, 3 parking spaces at grade, 3 floors above that, which will contain 5 units in total, 1 bedroom, 3 2-bedroom units, and 1 3-bed duplex unit up. And what's interesting about the site and what was beneficial for us is that there's an existing residential entrance that we can utilize to accommodate all of this, where you'll access the back of the site through a corridor that will add by retrofitting one of the existing apartments and then really building a corridor over the existing roof of Series Table to tie into the back of the site. We did a similar project in North Center at 1911 West Irving Park on a slightly larger scale, where we took a similar building and added a ground-up component in the back, and we took that from 6 apartments to 24 units and did a pretty big addition on the back of the site. So we've done a similar project before, and there you can see the elevation and then the floor plans.
Yeah, York, can you if you can keep it on that elevation, I think that gives a pretty good idea. Like I said, it's a little unique because it does have that kind of courtyard in the middle.
Right. So, I mean, you can see here the 3-story existing building in front will be unchanged. It's an interesting project because unless you're on the east side of Broadway, I don't even think you'd notice the height of the addition in the back. Again, thank you for getting us in on short notice. We haven't formalized, items such as building materials and things like that for exactly what we use, and we certainly welcome and value the input from the community group if there are products or color scheme or something that you think might be a good option for here. We're always willing to and eager to work together and work with neighborhood groups. But you can see the addition of balconies off of the back tier, which I think would be very nice. Again, from the exterior on Broadway, you really wouldn't see much of the addition that we're adding in the back. Gabe, am I missing anything, or does that pretty much?
No, I would just like to echo Josh's comments, and thanks for having us. Like we said, we love this community. We're really excited about the project. I just was checking my notes, and one thing that's important to note is that the current zoning allows us to build actually a comparably sized building. I think we'd be at about 14,317 square feet. The proposed is within about 8 square feet of that. We would max out at 6 units. We're seeking 9. It just makes the project more viable. But yeah, we're really excited to hear what you guys have to say, and they're really grateful for the opportunity to present at such short notice. So thanks for having us.
Jan, can I start?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So you said you're going from a change of a B32 to a B2-3. And I know that you're doing the 2 probably to get the residential on the ground floor. But what is the need to go from a -2 to a -3 in terms of bulk purposes and the FAR?
Like Gabe said, not much with regard to the bulk and FAR. It does allow us that 4th story at the rear, and then it also supports the density, the number of units.
Okay. And so what's the final FAR that you end up with this project?
It does allow us that 4th story at the rear, and then it also supports. Do you have the total, what your FAR is with the proposed addition?
It's 2.2 times the lot size, and it's...
no, is that what your actual FAR is going to be, or do you know?
It is actually. It's very close. The current site is 6,508 square feet times 2.2. That's what the -2 allows for right now. That's 14,317, and our proposed is 14,310. So we're actually 7 square feet less than what's allowed with the current.
What's allowed as of right. So yeah, York, we won't even be utilizing any of the FAR that's allowed under the proposed new zoning designation. Again, that's just for the height at the rear and then the number of dwelling units.
14,300. Okay, thank you.
And we won't be asking for any types of bonuses that are associated with the transit served location portion of the ordinance, just only the parking reduction.
For the rear yard setback reduction that you're looking for, is that for the balconies or is that actually the physical building itself?
I'm going to see where, Gabe, do you know where the setback or where that stair is off the back with the
sorry, I believe it's for the actual building itself. And what's interesting
is for the building. I'm just not quite sure where we are exactly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact dimension, but I believe it's just for the building, not the balconies. I don't know that the balconies are factored into that, but what is interesting is that if you compare it to the adjacent building, which is a solid block, I believe we're actually on level with that. So we're not really going much further than that. But we can certainly, look into that and get more specifics. But I believe it's just the setback just for the building, not the balconies.
I think will be based on the code compliant parking spaces being at least 18 feet in depth, taking into consideration the trash enclosure and the balconies. I would guess that in the end, we will not be asking for more than maybe a 5 to 8 foot reduction in that 30 feet, which again could be done administratively since it is less than 50% of the required setback. And as Gabe mentioned, we can certainly provide the committee with a survey of the block, but we are definitely consistent with the predominant rear setback for the other buildings on that block of Broadway. And if you see me looking down, I'm doing the same thing Jan is, and I'm taking notes. So.
Okay, do we have any questions? John?
I do, Jan. Yep, hi. To the north of this building, it looks like there's a 1-story building, is that one story all the way back to the alley? Or does that have additional floors?
No, that is one story all the way back to, it doesn't go all the way to the alley. It goes about the same setback as our building.
So it seems like you would be able to see that elevation, the north elevation. You'd probably have to be, like you said, on the east side of Broadway and north of the building, obviously, to be able to see it. So are there going to be windows on that, or are you planning a solid brick, wall there?
I'll respond to that. We're really not that far along with the side elevation. It might be a solid brick wall, but the funny thing about it is this lot is 200 feet back, and I think the current depth from where the addition begins is around 125, 130 feet. So it is pretty hard to see back there. I mean, it's just unusually deep. And I don't know that there is a way to put windows on the lot line, but I strongly believe you can't see it. We could certainly put together a mock-up that could show the visual there, but I think it would be really challenging to see it going back that far unless you were maybe on the second or third story on the street across the street from the subject.
Or for the neighbors who may have apartments, above the street level commercial space on Broadway. We might be able to see that. I guess just the concern is that I don't think we would want to see cinder block, a solid cinder block, behemoth wall there, monolithic wall. We'd like to see some sort of high quality material. To the
That's understandable.
You can see it.
Yeah.
I think the greatest impact, John, might be the people that are in that courtyard building on Berry, because this is what this all backs up to. There's a huge courtyard building back there, and so these are some of the apartments that would be east facing, like the rear side of those apartments that are east facing would be looking directly into the back of this particular this lot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. As Gabe indicated, we haven't quite thoroughly gone through the design elements for the proposed new build or new addition, at least. We wanted to at least preliminarily get in front of you guys, you and the other members, in order to get this kind of feedback. So as we continue to develop the design a little further, we have that input prior to proceeding. It was our intent that we would maybe, if you would welcome us back, come back in December and present a more completed design package. So we definitely invite and encourage all of you to provide us with that kind of input right now, because those are considerations that maybe we don't see as well as you do now.
Yeah. Sarah, you're kind of familiar with how we operate. We're kind of operating right now in uncharted territory, because this is the first time we've had a presentation, and we have not been in a position where we've voted on anything. So we really haven't addressed the issue of how we would vote, especially with the membership. The board is here, and I've circulated the materials to the board. So that's something that we need to figure out, how we would do the voting. Thank you again for coming this evening. And yes, we would most definitely love to have you back. The normal process is there's a presentation when you're at the point where you're pretty close to what your final plan is going to be, and then after that there would be input from the community, and then there would be a final presentation where there would actually be a vote. So we're probably would work with you on having you back.
Jan, we do have a question from a member on YouTube.
Okay.
So Audrey has asked, have they considered doing a building without any parking in this area, since this is a high transit area, and wanted to get some clarification about how the cars are entering and exiting the site as currently planned.
Yeah, so one of our earlier iterations of this, we've kind of been tweaking it internally with a little bit of feedback from the alderman's office. We did show less parking before, so it's certainly an option that we're willing to revisit. We're trying to find that sweet spot on what would be best for the community as well. And also still provide any necessary parking for the employees of Ceres. So that's something we can definitely continue to work through with the community. As far as the ingress and egress to and from the parking, it is a little bit unique, and maybe Gabe or Josh, you can walk the members through that, since it's almost a shared driveway that kind of runs parallel to the alley or perpendicular to the adjacent couple properties. It appears on the survey to be an easement. We have ordered an updated survey. The survey that we have is a little older, to better understand how that is going to be navigated. But Josh and Gabe, who have a little bit more intimacy with the site, might be able to better describe that for you.
Yeah, as Sarah mentioned, it shows us an easement on survey with our neighbor to the north. It's a bit of a hairpin turn to navigate through the alleys, but essentially you would go off of, I believe, Briar to the north, and the side street is escaping me, to the west of our building, to access the alley and then turn into this shared driveway that provides access to the parking area for our building, as well as the building immediately north of ours.
Yeah, it's a very awkward configuration. It's the alley, you come off of that alley that's parallel to Briar, essentially.
Yeah,
correct. It's odd. I believe the site is there currently, Josh or Gabe, maybe you can confirm, are there currently 3 operable parking spaces that are being utilized?
Yeah, so right now there's a total of, I believe on survey it shows us 4, and Ceres sort of squeezes an extra 2 in. Out of the 4 apartments that we operate right now, only one of them is renting parking on 4 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom units. 7 or 8 people occupying those 4 units, and one of those is rented to one of the residential units.
Okay. So I think that was another one of the reasons for keeping some of the parking.
For long-term regarding the zoning, would you entertain the reversion of the zoning back to its existing after the project was completed?
Absolutely, yes, we would. And towards that same end, as another level of assurance that what you see is what you get, this will be a type 1 zoning map amendment. So it will be tied directly to the plans that are ultimately, if the plans are ultimately approved by the community and the alderman, so that whenever anybody goes in for permitting, the only plans that will be, for which a permit will be issued, will be the ones, again, that you've seen. If there's any slight deviation from those, the process has to begin again. So that's just another level of assurance, but otherwise, and or as well, or in addition to, we would be happy to rezone it back down to the B23 once all permits and certificates of occupancy and the such are able to be procured.
Would that be B32 or B22?
If you prefer, I mean, the original zoning is B32, so we could take it back down to that. Everything is going to be grandfathered in, including the use. And as you acknowledged, York, the reason for the B2-3 is for that residential use on the first floor in the back. which again would be grandfathered in if we rezoned it back down.
Thank you.
York, are there any more questions?
No other questions from general membership.
Okay. All right. We do have Alderman Tunney here. I don't know if he has any comments for the project.
Alderman, if you would like to participate, you'll have to unmute. I did mute all the participants earlier.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you for coming, Alderman Tunney.
Thanks for all involved. I haven't given a lot of serious thought to this project. Bennett has been working on it. I thought the alley access is peculiar to in terms of the parking. I'm glad that this developer is doing the Serbian house, and we'll deal with that situation. I'm very happy about that. I haven't looked at it in regards to the neighboring buildings. I don't think 9 units at this site is that unreasonable. I just think it's such a mishmash in the back. And the issue is for the community is that we're not only going to do a upzoning, but we'll also do a trip to the ZBA, I believe, in regards to the rear yard setbacks. So it's a double ask, and architecturally wise and otherwise, it better be a spectacular building. That's my 2 cents worth on it. And I know they're going to come back with more defined plans at your next meeting, but it sounded like with Sarah's proposal that Siri's table might not be part of the redo.
Sorry,
It might not be the developer's problem, but it's certainly an issue for the community. Mm-hmm.
I stand corrected, Alderman. My apologies. Josh and Gabe were able to execute a long-term lease this series. So it looks like they've endured the storm and they are going to make it through. So we're really excited to keep them in the neighborhood and deliver to them a new upgraded space.
Yeah, I didn't see that in your opening remarks, Sarah. So
yep, my apologies.
Okay, is that it on the questions? Okay, then I'll just go back and go over our process. Again, from my emails with Sarah, I know she's been working with Bennett and Alderman Tunney's office. So when your plans get a little bit further firmed up, we'll definitely put you on the agenda. And thank you for coming, and thank you for working on the Serbian house. We put in a lot of effort with Alderman Tunney, and he was able to get the Serbian house landmark. So we're thrilled to have the Serbian house still in the neighborhood as a landmark. So that's good news that you guys have got the Serbian house. So with that, anything else?
Well, that does it, but thanks a lot for having us. We really enjoyed meeting you guys and look forward to working with you.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to meet in person soon. Hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. This is a little awkward, and as I said before, we're kind of wading through all of this virtually. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, and Jan, just
Yes.
finally, if you or any of the other members have any comments or feedback that perhaps escaped you during the call, please feel free to email me. I'll make sure that it gets passed along to Gabe and Josh. In particular, when it comes to design elements, because I know it's a diverse and unique neighborhood, so we want to make sure that we're really embracing it. So please feel free to email me night or day.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Take care. Bye.
I'm just going to go through a few updates. I really don't have too much here. There was a previous community conversation with the 19th district that went very well. There was I think the participant level was around 48 people. And the second community conversation is going to be Saturday, November 21st, 2020. I know the original time gives it a 3-hour window. It was actually a 1.5 hour window, and the next one should be about the same time. So even if you didn't participate in the first community conversation, you're more than welcome, and all comments would be appreciated if you wanted to participate in the second series. And I had sent out an announcement earlier, last week regarding the conversation, so feel free to sign up for that. The 19th district, the 19th police district has a Twitter account. Feel free to sign up for that. There's daily posting, which includes, alerts, general activities, and events. The next CAPS meeting is December 14th. That'll be at 6:30, right before the general meeting. And then also too is that I did send out some information. There's been an uptick in thefts of automobiles, and they're basically carjackings, and there's also been thefts of people leaving stuff in their cars. So please be aware. The best thing is to don't sit in your car. Get in your car, lock the doors, and drive away. The cars that have been hijacked, most of them have been people sitting in their cars on the phone, and somebody, pulls up in another SUV and they jump out, either rob you, take your vehicle. So please just, pay attention to your surroundings. And then again, there's been a few robberies in the neighborhood. There was one this week right outside of my building. Unfortunately, these are crimes of opportunity. People are not, paying attention. They're walking down the street on their phones. So just in general, be aware of your surroundings and, put your phones away and, be safe. Excuse me, I dropped the rest of my notes here. Redefine Lakeshore Drive, again, www.northlakeshoredrive.org has all the plans on it for the proposed plans for redefining Lakeshore Drive. Sign up for that. You can get general updates. And then Alderman Tunney he attends any meetings on that. And then also sign up for Alderman Tunney's newsletter. That comes out weekly. You can get updates on construction updates, events in the neighborhood. So just stay in touch with the community with those things. And that's all I've got in the way of updates. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alderman Tunney. And Calvin from Alderman Tunney's office, I saw that he's on here. So Alderman Tunney, you and Calvin have the floor.
Well, I can go first and share some other updates from our office. Jan, you covered a lot of what I was going to say, so I appreciate that. In the neighborhood, as you all know, there's been some resurfacing of streets. Particularly Wellington and Briar are being resurfaced right now. That should be done by November 13th, so we're pretty close to that street resurfacing being done. Other updates are the city is currently in budget hearings right now. If you have thoughts on the budget, feel free to reach out to our office. We've been sitting in on all the budget meetings. We've been going over the numbers of the proposed budget. So want to make sure that people are aware of that. And then I just want to lift up that second community conversation for the 19th district is really important. I speak with the 19th district a lot to make sure that they're aware of crime trends, that they're aware of ongoing problems in the neighborhood. I also get a lot of emails from people about their concerns, and that second community conversation is a really great way to have a say in the 19th district's 2021 strategic plan. So if there's ongoing problems in the neighborhood, of course, always feel free to call the police, feel free to reach out to the alderman's office, reach out to me. But for like long-term staffing issues, like beats, reoccurring issues on beats, things like that, this conversation would be a really great place to share that directly with the 19th district. Thanks.
Thanks, Calvin. Can you hear me on my end?
Yes, Alderman Tenney.
Okay, so Calvin is too nice for my office right now. He's a little green. We've been around a long time together with the members of SELVN. So let me talk about a couple of things. Number one is that our police resources in 19 have been dropping. We went from almost 400 under Eddie Johnson to probably 340 right now. And so I'm not happy about police resources in the 19th district, and also the sending different teams to different parts of the city to quell citywide violence. So I'm not happy about it. I don't have the relationship with the central office that I did under whether it was Waller or Eddie Johnson that I have with David Brown. The mayor's priorities are more south and west, and quelling some of the violence that we have, which I'm not minimizing by any stretch. But we have seen uptick in quality of life issues in 19, and the fact that it's been a quiet season generally because no Cubs and our economic activity is in the doldrums. It's not a happy time. When it comes to the budget, they're talking about increasing property taxes, which I'm not only increasing them one time, but doing a cost of living on an annual basis. So they will continue to rise based on some kind of inflationary target. And their limit was 5%, which is a very high amount. So I know that property taxes are a really big issue. Property taxes pay for public education. I don't see many projects coming into our ward in terms of improving public education. I've seen the enrollment dropping in the CPS system-wide. That makes me very nervous. I also see the census number dropping come in 2021, which will not be good for the city of Chicago. I'm all for the Biden presidency, but I think that we've got some fiscal problems in the city and the state that are in some respects insurmountable, especially with the fair tax being not approved. So I would love to hear from SELVN in regards to the budget and the revenue enhancements, which basically are about a $94 million property tax increase and a cost of living adjustment every year on property taxes. That's that. I'm not happy with the police reinforcements there. And if the budget vote was taken today, I would not approve the budget, because I don't think there's enough fiscal tightening and or credibility in the city or state government at this point. So that will probably open up a few questions.
Well, just to circle back on, what's happening in the neighborhood, I was on a call within the last 10 days with the commander was on the call, and he attributed, the uptick in some of the crime in the area. But compared to last year, he said the statistics are down, but they're attributing to what's happening is basically crimes of opportunity. They thought, with the restaurants, with the open dining out, he thought that was, bringing people into the neighborhood that were taking, again, crimes of opportunity. But there weren't any people on the street for several months. And then, the weather got nice and the restaurants were opening up outside, and he just seemed to feel that that's what, brought the crime up in the neighborhood. And they do have, they also feel that there's like a small group that are kind of associated together and that are coming back and targeting in the neighborhood. So again, the main thing is, be aware of your surroundings and, put your phone away, put your stuff away and, just, again, pay attention. So that's my 2 cents. Also, we have Dan from Alderman Tunney's office is with us too, if he has anything to add.
Well, there's other things to add, but I was mostly concerned with feedback from the community in regards to the budget, because that budget vote is going to happen before the end of the month. I know Dan will talk about infrastructure as Calvin did, and probably updates on the park, Wellington and such, and the turf field and Aids Garden, which I'm sure he's got updates on there. But it's, and the issue about the crime should be way down given the fact that there is no economic activity anywhere comparable to 2019, and we are losing businesses every single day. And the programs for revitalization, are paltry other than the federal government coming in and doing a second or third PPP. The grant programs are minuscule compared to what the need is. And, I've been, it's somewhat at odds with the mayor about her initiatives on South and West Side, which I'm not opposed to, but she has no plan for the Central Business District and the North Side, which bothers me as a person who represents this neighborhood and as a person that understands the small business aspect of it is, I don't think half of our businesses are ever going to reopen in the spring. I don't care if there's a vaccine or not. So we have a serious economic development problem in every neighborhood and downtown too. So my concern for the city and such is that we need help from the federal government. There's no question. But there are people like myself that are dipping into long-term savings in order to keep people employed, and they cannot go through the winter. And because there's going to be no outdoor dining on Broadway, there's going to be no outdoor dining on Southport, and the pandemic is still ravaging. In fact, it's probably going to be worse than it was in the first term. So I'm not a happy alderman right now for a number of reasons, and I would love to hear whether I'm not looking at the entire situation properly, but I haven't heard a lot of comments on our office or on our website about the budget vote that's coming up before Thanksgiving. It has to be passed. A balanced budget has to be passed by December 31st. So, I've asked Fritz Kagi to give me Lakeview Township EAV values because, the idea that this would add, I don't know what it was, single-digit dollars onto a $250,000 home in the city. I think it was $94 to a $250,000 home. That's very unrealistic of what's happening in Lakeview when it comes to reassessments and property tax increases. The last time I voted for a budget increase, we got the 400 police officers and we got $25 million for public education.
It looks like Alderman Tunney just dropped from the meet. So hopefully he'll be back.
Okay, do we have any questions from the YouTube viewers, York?
Nothing from YouTube.
Okay.
In this lull, real quickly, I know the alderman mentioned work that's being done on the turf field over on Diversey. Some of the updates on that is they're putting in the turf field and they're doing stormwater mitigation right now. This work has already been approved and the permits were released for that about 2 weeks ago, so work is starting. Weather is going to be a really big factor in when that construction is done. But the Park District hopes, with the weather cooperating, that that new turf field will be in by late spring, early summer of next year. So I know our office has gotten some questions about what's happening over there, and that's where the work stands right now.
Is the storm work, is that the area that is north of the golf course?
Yes.
Not the golf course, the driving range. 'Cause
Yes,
the
it
whole
is.
area that's all closed off, and then, but that's not where the turf field's going to be. That's where this storm drainage work is being done now.
Yes, because there's been a lot of flooding in that part of the field, is
Okay,
my
I just-
understanding.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that that's what the case was. Okay.
I had a question to follow up on the resurfacing projects on Briar and Wellington. For Briar, we're done with the resurfacing. Will the traffic calming devices be reinstalled in the near future?
You know, that's a great question. I know Dan's on the call. Maybe he can jump in on that one.
Sorry, guys. I was trying to figure out how to get the microphone on. So, York, this is Dan. We will be reinstalling the speed calming or the traffic calming devices. Any speed bumps that were there prior to will be reinstalled. I don't have an exact schedule on that yet. At the latest, it would probably be in the spring of 2021.
Okay, thank you.
That was on Wellington, York?
That's right.
Briar. Yeah.
Prior? Sorry. Okay, thank you.
And we just got notification, Jan, that Senator Feigenholtz had to leave the meeting.
Okay. Alyssa, are you still on?
No, she had to leave also.
Oh, okay. All righty. Thank you. Dan, do you have anything else?
I mean, since we're on the resurfacing projects, so as York stated, Briar's resurfacing was completed on Friday. The remaining work is the reinstallation of the speed humps and pavement markings. So I'm going to work with CDOT to try to expedite those pavement markings, along with the pavement markings that still need to be done on a surf at Pine Grove, Oakdale, and Broadway. So those will probably get done all at the same time, and that should be within the next 2 weeks. Wellington is scheduled to be done, I believe, by Wednesday. I was talking to our contact at CDOT earlier today. I know that there were some questions about the remaining asphalt that was brought over to Wellington and laid down. Now, that's not the final product, but as a directive, CDOT has their crews use all of the hot asphalt while it's in the truck. So they can't take it back to the plant and reuse it somewhere else. So that's why the remaining asphalt from Briar was placed on Wellington. I know there were some concerns about that. Sort of like if you don't use it, you lose it. So that's pretty much it in terms of the street resurfacings. Another project that I know has been requested a number of times was the installation or creation of a crosswalk at Surf and Broadway. That is going to be installed this construction season. So again, within the next 30 to 60 days, they'll start construction on the southeast corner of Broadway and Surf. There will be a bump out or curb extension ADA ramp that's installed to connect the west side of Broadway to the east side of Broadway at Surf. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, let me know, but that's it for me.
I have some questions about that. Hi, Dan.
Okay.
It's Liz.
Hey, Liz.
So I'll take these out of order since you just brought up the Broadway and Surf. That's a blind curve coming from the south there. How are you going to make sure that that is a safe place to cross?
Well, I mean, there's going to be additional signage that goes up at that intersection and prior to that intersection to let people know that there is a crosswalk ahead. There's an idea that I've always looked at that's been installed. The city doesn't have very many of them, but rapid flashing beacons that's used in other cities and states. That's an idea that I've had, but at least initially it'll be standard crosswalk signage and crosswalk ahead signage to let everybody know that there's a new crosswalk.
Got it. Okay. And one thing I did not hear you mention with the repainting was the Clark and Oakdale. That got torn up like 3 times in the last year, and it still has not been finished. The markings for the crosswalks.
It's like a half crosswalk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's again, that one is also on the list.
Okay.
I'm trying to just, off the top of my head.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, I just want to make sure
that one is one of the ones that is included in my list of pavement markings. Yeah.
Got it. And Wellington and Waterloo, I assume. I saw it got paved. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Just needs to be striped. Okay.
We'll get those stripes expedited.
Cool. And then, so I appreciate your explanation about the extra asphalt. I guess that explains why it got dumped on Wellington after hours, after there were already cars parked back on the street and they had to go around them.
Yeah. I mean, that's not uncommon.
Okay.
Blanketing parking restrictions has always been an issue. But
well, no, it was just that the parking restriction went until 3:30 and this stuff got dumped at like 7:30 that night after people were already reparked on the street. And so literally they had to pave around cars.
I've seen the asphalt. Yeah, it's zigzags down the street, but again, they used it there and laid it down there because if they don't use whatever's in the truck, that's wasted dollars.
I totally understand that. Thank you for that explanation. Did you get the note? I had mentioned this at last month's meeting. I had sent an email with some pictures about the alley along 702 West Wellington.
With the excavated private property against the building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any responsibility for them to finish that out?
We can talk offline. I mean, that's a private property issue that we're definitely going to have to work with the building, the new ownership.
Right.
But I mean, there are ways. I'm sure the property owners in that building don't like seeing it either. But we'll definitely work with that building and the new condo association to get that addressed.
Next thing I have is there's a business on the southwest corner of Clark and Oakdale, the SCE agency. And they have a photography studio right in the front room of their business, which when they have flashes, when they're taking photographs, is really dangerous for people driving on Oakdale going westbound. If they can just have some sort of requirement to close their shades or
what was the name of the business again?
SCE agency. I think it's like a modeling studio.
Oh, it is questionable what's going on in there. But, yes,
right.
But we were driving last week and there were like lots of flashes for photography and it was very distracting for driving.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's definitely something that we can look at. I know Calvin's taking notes.
Thank you.
So that's definitely something we'll bring up and we'll work with Jessica.
And my last question is just as far as buildings in the or businesses in the area, that have for rent or for sale signs on them, would that be a question for you or for Maureen?
The chamber is probably best suited to talk about what could and couldn't go into the location or the status of them, since they're in contact with their businesses.
Okay.
But definitely, shoot an email over to Jessica just to follow up with her.
Okay.
But
I was just wondering if anybody knew what was going on with Avenue Tavern or the CVS at Clark and Berry.
I do not.
Okay.
Well, the only thing I can tell you for Avenue Tavern and evidently they're not doing well over there. So most likely they're not going to be there much longer. But that's just what I've heard is that they're not doing well. So it kind of looks like they haven't been able to pay their bills, and it looks like they might be going away. But there is a for lease. Yeah, it's been there a long time, and there is a for lease sign up for there.
Right.
And I don't know if the CVS. I'm not sure if the property is for sale or for rent, but it appears to be that the CVS is going out of there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's for rent.
CVS building, I think, says for sale.
That's it.
That's
Yeah, that one I think was for sale, but Avenue Tavern is showing for rent.
Yes, that's what I thought on the CVS when I went by there last week.
Yeah.
It was for sale.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my list.
Okay, did Alderman Tunney come back?
He did not.
He did not. Well, that's terrible. He gives us bummer information and then he leaves. So does anybody have anything uplifting to say that we can, before we adjourn?
We do actually have a couple of questions, Jan, that have been asked. So this is for the Alderman's office. This came through YouTube. They was asking to find out what's the Alderman's process for determining which streets need to be repaved and when. And then also to follow up on that, does the office consider any additional traffic calming projects to be integrated with these repaving projects?
So in terms of resurfacing, whether it's alleys, streets, specifically residential, we look at a number of things. We look at, first and foremost, complaints, how many times pothole requests are coming through to our office and into 311. We look at street cuts visually when we go out and personally inspect it. I know all of you have seen Alderman Tunney out on his bike. That's one thing he does is he's very vigilant. He sees everything and anything. So whether it's raised sidewalks with tripping hazards or multiple street cuts in streets or a sewer caving in or multiple potholes, he brings that back. Alley aprons that are not compliant in their old asphalt aprons. So there's on-site inspections of them. We look at 311 requests through our office, complaints that just come into our office, the number of complaints, we compile that list, as well as looking at the Chicago Department of Transportation's their surveys. So they just had a recent survey come out, which their engineers go out and they take a look at the streets. Once we compile that list, we submit that list to the Department of Transportation, and they get back to us with, what's recommended, what's not. Sometimes if on surf, for instance, surf from Broadway to Sheridan, we'll put the whole stretch in there, and they'll come back with, there's a certain segment that was recently resurfaced by a 5G company. So that section will be taken out of it. And we also work with, especially right now, within the last 2 to 3 years, there's been a lot of 5G work. Water department performing their resurfacing projects, or post water main and sewer main repairs. So there's a handful of ways that we go about determining what streets need to be done. And looking ahead, if there's a street that's in really bad condition, but there's a water main project the next year, the water department, that won't be put on for resurfacing. That'll be resurfaced post water main installation. And in terms of speed reducing or traffic calming devices, any traffic calming device that's already in place, once it's resurfaced, like I said earlier, that's reinstalled. All of the speed hump requests that come into our office, there's a process. So let's say the street of Wellington, which at this point does not have speed humps that I recall. Liz, you should probably know better. But if the neighbors on that block, it's essentially a 2-block segment. If those neighbors wanted speed bumps on that block, they would reach out to our office. We have a petition process that, as other ward offices do, there's a petition process that the neighbors have to go through. 80% of the residents on the block have to say that they're okay with it. And so we don't just throw a speed bump in here or there. It's based on whether or not the community and the street wants that traffic calming device installed on their block.
Does it also have to do though with the grade of the street? I remember when this came up in discussion a couple of years ago, York, I remember you brought up the difference between Briar and Wellington was the direction that they go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion about the problem. I think it was Barry that we were discussing that eastbound was going to be potentially an issue with the fact that it was a downgrade.
Yeah, it was Wellington too. I remember we had that discussion.
Well, they're both eastbound
Right.
streets, right? And Broadway is at a lower grade than Clark is, and they're both coming from Clark and Sheridan the same in relation to Broadway. I mean, if you're biking down that street and you're heading eastbound and you come up on the speed hump, you're going to need to slow down. But in terms of speed humps not being able to be installed on an eastbound street that's slightly downhill, I've never heard of a restriction based on grade. I know that that speed humps particularly they make it difficult for the street sweeper and the snow plow. I mean, on the longer streets, those plows going down the longer streets, they tend to hit them, and there's a significant wear and tear on those speed humps. But other than that, I've never heard of a reason that they wouldn't be allowed or they would be difficult to be installed on a street like Wellington or Barry.
And well, what about the fact that Wellington is now also a major throughway for trucks delivering to Mariano's? Would that pose a problem as well?
They could be installed if the neighbors wanted them. But the realization that if a truck is coming down that street and they hit that speed hump, whoever's property abuts that speed hump, I've had blocks where they were installed, and at the locations that they were installed, when a UPS truck hits it, those big UPS or FedEx trucks hit it does vibrate through the adjacent properties. Other than that, though, we don't have. There's not semis going down Wellington every day. Yeah,
There can be. They're not supposed to be, but there have been.
Well, that's another thing that you would have to.
I mean, there's that sign right at Clark that restricts them, but
yeah,
I can tell you that is not always followed.
Okay.
Well, but to answer your question, no. I mean, other than that vibration of a larger truck hitting the speed hump, I think that would be the biggest concern.
And I think that's the concern typically about that eastbound slight downgrade with it be more momentum. I think that was the discussion more so.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? I've got one more item on the agenda here. Any other questions, York, or does the board have anybody else that's on have any questions?
Nothing coming from YouTube. Dan, I'll email you with some other things separately.
Okay, yeah, and you'll be able to have a count of who we have on YouTube? Okay, thank you. We're coming up to the 21, yikes. I have a typo on the agenda. It should be 2021 to 2022. That's the next term. There will be, I put out there the slate of candidates for that term. Those are York Chan, Robert Clark, Liz Cohen, Mary Knoblich, and John Rafkin. So if anybody has anybody that they want to consider to be added to the slate, please feel free to reach out to me, and we'll look at it. So that's the slate for 2021 to 2022, and on the December meeting we'll have an election. So that's all I've got on that. So if does anybody have anything else? Okay, so York, you can disconnect the YouTube. The meeting's adjourned at 8:21, and then if the board